Welcome to Ampyre Sessions, where discovery meets rebellion. This is the show that takes you on a journey through the world of music, the risks, the legends, the hidden stories, and the lessons that fuel creativity. Here we break down the craft, the culture, and the chaos of sound, making it raw and extremely unforgettable. Whether you are a musician, a fan, or just hungry for knowledge, Ampyre is your backstage pass to the rebellion of audio. So plug in, turn up. This is Ampyre Sessions. I am your host, Dustin, and it is an artist spotlight. We're stepping into the world of a man who didn't just front a band. He defined what a frontman could be. A voice that could cut through steel, a presence that could command an arena, a life story that could read like a novel written in fire. Makes sense for what our show is, right? This is an artist spotlight on Steven Tyler, the demon of screaming, the face of Aerosmith, and one of the most electrifying performers to ever walk onto a stage. Let's dive in. All right, so first, obviously, every rock star has to have an origin. So Steven Tyler wasn't born a rock god. He built himself into one. Into this world as Steven Tallarico, born in New York to a classical pianist father. Music wasn't just around him, it was a family language. His father practiced constantly filling the house with complex harmonies and drastic crescendos. And whether he realized it or not, Steven was absorbing it all. The classical influence shows up later in his career. The theatricality, the dynamics, the sense of drama. Steven Tyler doesn't just sing songs, he performs them like a symphony. But he wasn't a clean-cut prodigy. He was a misfit, a kid that just didn't fit the mold. He got kicked out of multiple schools. He bounced between programs. He lived with a restless energy and didn't have a home yet. And that's a theme you'll see throughout his life. The idea that misfit energy, when channeled, becomes what? Creative power. Before he even ever grabbed a mic, Steven Tyler was a drummer. He was a percussionist. And this matters because if you actually listen to his voice in his phrasing, he sings like a percussionist. His timing, his syncopation, his rhythmic instincts, they're all rooted in that early drumming obsession. Then there's the voice, the rasp, the scream, the elastic range. It didn't just appear. He built it through mimicry, experimentation, and pushing himself to the edge. He studied blues shouters. He idolized Mick Jagger, and he pushed his voice into places most singers won't even dare to go. This is the foundation of the Steven Tyler myth. A kid who didn't fit in, so he created a world where he did. And in case you guys don't know, Mick Jagger is the frontman for Rolling Stones, if you never knew who that is. There's been multiple songs made about Mick Jagger. Most notably, you probably heard of Adam Levine or Maroon 5's I Got the Moves Like Jagger. Well, that's based off of Mick Jagger. So we're going to move on to a very, very key piece here. The formation of Aerosmith. Now picture this, 1970s, a small club in New Hampshire. You could probably see like fog rolling over the stage and just a typical small music stage feels like. Steven Tyler sees Joe Perry play guitar for the first time. In case you don't know who Joe Perry is, anytime I've ever quoted the Toxic Twins, that's who I'm talking about. And something clicks. Tyler had the voice. Perry had the riffs. Together, they had a spark. Thus, Toxic Twins. They formed Aerosmith with Tom Hamilton, Joey Kramer, and Brad Whitford. And the chemistry was instant, but it was not clear. Tyler and Perry were opposites in all the right ways. Steven Tyler being a more theatrical, melodic, controlling type of personality, while Perry was raw, riff-driven, and rebellious. This tension, this push and pull between both of them became the engine of Aerosmith and what drove them. The early days were pure grind, sleeping in the same apartment. In case you don't know, Steven Tyler and actually Joe Perry were actually roommates for quite some time. Eating next to nothing, playing in tiny clubs, building a following through sheer force of will. Again, I like to explain this part in depth. It was so much harder to get your name out there compared to the nowadays. 1970s, you really didn't have the internet. You really didn't. Nothing was simple as, hey, I can plug in and somehow try to build a brand or build myself up into something to put my name out there. It was literally like boots on the sidewalk. Hey, I need come to this show, handing out flyers, doing anything of word of mouth. It was so much harder to build something. So when they like to say the early days were pure grind, back then they were. It took a lot of energy just to even get your name noticed. And this is where Steven Tyler's stage persona began to take shape. The scarves, the strut, the mic stand, the exaggerated expressions, the sense that he wasn't just performing, he was possessed by the music. Aerosmith wasn't just forming a band, they were forging an identity. The sound, the style, the attitude. Steven Tyler's artistry is a combination of technique, instinct, and pure chaos. So let's break it down. What makes Steven Tyler? Well, first, obviously, the voice. He's a frontman, right? The voice, his vocal toolkit is insane. A controlled rasp, high register screams, falsetto flips, blues phrasing, whisper to explosion dynamics. I can go into a depth on a little bit of these. Falsettos, obviously, we know are high pitched tones, right? They reach clear up there. Blues phrasing, in case anyone that doesn't know what that stands for, it's basically where you can almost mimic the sound of an instrument. That's how great your voice is. But whisper to explosion dynamics, what I'm explaining next kind of explains that. He can go from delicate to feral in a single breath, and he maintained that range for decades, which is almost unheard of in the music industry. And what I mean by whisper to explosion, he could take a soft note, a soft melody, and then instantaneously, then through the next second, just boom, burst into some type of huge flip. And it's so cool. The stage persona is next what makes Steven Tyler. He doesn't just walk on a stage, okay? He takes it. The scarves aren't decoration. They're an extension of his movement when he's on the stage. His body language is serpentine, fluid, unpredictable. His facial expressions are exaggerated, elastic, and almost cartoonish, but in a way that pulls you in. He can command a crowd with silence just as easily as he can with his voice. Next, what makes Steven Tyler, the fashion. He blends glam, bohemian, and rock grit. He influenced glam metal frontmen, modern pop rock stars, and something that I didn't really know too much, but he even influenced fashion designers. The songwriting. Tyler writes like a storyteller and a showman through his wordplay, rhythmic phrasing, hooks that feel inevitable, and emotional arcs that build like a theater. This is the craft behind the charisma. The classic era hits. Now we kind of go into the Aerosmith timeline of the music that made who Aerosmith is. Now we can talk about the songs that formed Aerosmith into legends. Okay. First one that I can think of, Dream On. He wrote it young, but it sounds like a lifetime of struggle was built within that song. It builds slowly, almost like you're confessing something, but then it erupts into one of the most powerful and iconic climaxes in rock history. This is Steven Tyler at his most vulnerable and also his most powerful. Move on to his next hit, or not his, should I say, Aerosmith's next hit, Sweet Emotion. This track is swagger distilled into sound. The bass line, the talk box, the groove. Tyler's vocal delivery feels like a smirk turned into a melody. Walk This Way is another classic hit from Aerosmith. A riff that changed rock, a vocal delivery that borders on proto-rap, and a song that bridged rock and hip-hop in a way nobody saw coming. Back in the Saddle. This is when Steven Tyler is unleashed, has some wild energy, that cowboy swagger, and vocal acrobatics that almost feel superhuman. Last one to fall into is Last Child. It's a funk rock fusion with Tyler delivering one of his most powerful, gritty performances. These songs didn't just make Aerosmith famous, they defined an era. The fall and the rebirth. Every great rock story has a collapse. Aerosmith's back then was brutal. The fall, drug use spiraled, fights escalated. The Toxic Twins era hit its breaking point and the band nearly imploded. Multiple things can factor into this. The pressure. Back then it was sort of similar, the pressure to create constant music. But then the artistic pressure of two absolute geniuses of their craft, butting heads in the same band. The burnout, I imagine travel and studio recordings and stuff like that could have played into this. And then almost the self-destruction, the drug use, the fights. Yeah, it could definitely lead into the unfortunate collapse of majority of your bands. But then we have to talk about the rebirth. Then comes the comeback story, the rehab, reconciliation, rebuilding trust, and reclaiming their sound. The 1980s resurgence was massive. And then came a moment that changed everything. The Run DMC collaboration. In the song Walk This Way, it wasn't just a remix, it was a cultural earthquake. It revived Aerosmith. It bridged a gap between rock and hip hop. It introduced Steven Tyler to a brand new generation, and it proved that reinvention wasn't just possible, it was powerful. In case you've never actually heard that song and the collaboration between both, it is fantastic. I would highly recommend going and taking a look and listening to it yourself. The 90s ballad era. Okay, then came the cinematic era, emotional storytelling, high budget videos, Tyler leaning into vulnerability and theatricality. This is where he became not just a rock star, but a survivor. And I do believe, please correct me if I am wrong, but I believe this is where the song from the Armageddon soundtrack, if you've never watched the movie Armageddon, it's fantastic. I would highly recommend it. But I believe Aerosmith actually made a song where they used one of their songs in the soundtrack and made a music video based on the movie, which is pretty cool in its own right. So if you haven't seen it, I would definitely go check out either the music video or watch Armageddon. But yeah, let's jump into the legacy of Steven Tyler. His legacy is massive, no matter how you want to put it. His influence in modern rock singers cite him constantly. Pop vocalists borrow his phrasing. Glam metal frontman copied his swagger. His longevity inspired generations. Reinvention, he never stayed in one lane. Whether it's solo projects, country-influenced work, TV appearances, philanthropy, continuing his touring, he never tried to just stick to one thing. And if most notably of TV appearances, he was a judge for quite a bit of time on American Idol when he was on there, and did a fantastic job finding talent. Multiple aspects on the influence in the music industry was just fantastic. But then we have to talk about his persona, okay? He's a symbol of resilience, a reminder that creativity can survive chaos, a performer who never phones it in. Steven Tyler isn't just a musician. He's a cultural icon. But I think we need to talk about why. At the end of the day, why does Steven Tyler still matter? So here's the heart of it. Steven Tyler matters because he represents the full spectrum of what it means to be an artist. Love him or hate him, that is the definition of art. The brilliance, the chaos, the reinvention, the scars, the triumphs. He's proof that creativity isn't clean. It's loud, it's messy, it's human. And when you channel it with everything you got, you can change the world. This has been an Artist Spotlight on Steven Tyler, also known as the Demon of Screaming, the voice of Aerosmith, and one of the greatest frontmen to ever step on stage. Yes, I gush about him a lot, and that is the main reason. The man embodies what the word art is supposed to be. All right, guys, we have reached the conclusion of this episode. Definitely, if you guys don't mind, go to my website, www.ampyresessions.com. You will find social links. Please go on there and hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit the notifications bar. Please share it. Anything helps on that social platform in helping me build my brand and build our brand at the end of the day. But yeah, do that for me. I appreciate every bit of help I can get in making these and continuing to make these episodes. But yeah, you've been listening to the Ampyre Sessions for Discovery Meets Rebellion. The journey does not stop here, ladies and gentlemen. Keep exploring, keep creating, and keep the fire alive. Until next time, stay loud, stay bold, and never fade into the noise. This was Ampyre Sessions.